So goal of this exercise was to import the second data set that you could download from the web page. So here in data raw, you see, okay, this is the second data set we want to have a look at. What I already did, I here have created the empty script import data 2.r, and here we will write a script that imports the data set into R and transforms it into the table that was given in the exercise description. So as always, we should start with the function here IM to provide the relative path to our R script, which in our case is here going to the subdirectory R, and then give the name import data 2.r, because this is how our R script is written. Then if we already know which packages to use, we could attach them right in the beginning. In our case, it's the package here. It's the package data table to use the function fread. And later on, we also want to use the package tibble in order to transform the imported data table into a tibble. We can execute all this. Then first step is again to write down the file path to the file that we want to import, enclose into the function here. So in our case, we first want to go into the subdirectory data, then into the subdirectory raw, and then it's the fread examples 2 file that we want to import. And we could already start by now calling the function fread from the package data table and specify the file argument and pass our file path 2. So this would be doing the same as in the previous exercises. Here, just notice if I don't bind the result of this function to a name, then it will only return the data table that results from the importing activity. So if I execute this, I immediately get the data table from the file that I have imported. And here we immediately see that something went wrong, because this data table here looks pretty weird. And this has nothing to do with the fact that it's a data table. We see here there's basically only one column with some very weird entry or very weird entries. So this already indicates to us, okay, something went wrong when this data set has been imported. So we can't rely on the default options of fread. We need to do it more specifically. So we need to be more specific. We need to use some optional arguments. In these cases, sometimes you know what to do immediately after looking at the result from fread. Sometimes you would also need to look into the underlying raw data set, because sometimes things are not as immediately obvious. In this case, what you can do, especially if the underlying raw data set is not too large, you could go here into data raw, and then you could click here on the data set you want to import. You click on view file. Don't use import dataset. Don't get used to it. Click on view file, and this will open the file here in a simple text file editor. And this is the raw data as it is stored on the computer. Be careful, don't change anything here, because this would violate our rule of never modifying the underlying raw data. But here you see how the underlying raw data looks like. And you already see what you need to change in the default fread call. Because we see here that the columns are separated not by comma, not by a semicolon, but by this quotation sign. So we would need to tell fread that the columns are separated by the quotation sign. And we also see here that the decimal part of the number is separated by this double column. So we need to also specify the deck argument. So let's start doing this. Let's add here the sep argument, and as I said, after looking into the raw file, we we know that we need to provide the this symbol here, the quotation sign, in order to tell R how to separate the columns. If we execute this, we see that R now already gets the different columns right, but because we now specified the column separator, so this symbol here is used as a separator of the columns. So this result here is already better than this one. But we also see that here the decimal sign is still wrong, also because it's a very uncommon one. So to remedy this, we could use the dec argument and provide this symbol here. If we execute this code, we now see that R also gets the decimal sign right. So we could now also think of a useful name. We could also make use of the span the call over various lines to make it more readable. And what we then also need to do is we need to transform the whole thing into a tibble, because that was also part of the task. And if we now execute all this, we see here that we get as the result the tibble that we wanted. So the procedure was here, again, first of all, start by attaching the packages and set the URIM as required. Write down the relative file path to the file that we want to import. Use data table fread. In our case, we also checked here the raw file to see how we actually need to specify some of the optional arguments to get the result that we want. Here, so file, this argument remains the same, but we also need to specify sep to get the column separator right, and dec to get the decimal separator right, and then transform the imported data table into a tibble to get what we actually want to. And this is exactly the procedure that you usually take. Import a data file using the standard default settings, see whether it has worked out correctly, and then correct for the results if needed. In our case, correcting for the arguments sep and dec was quite straightforward. Sometimes it's not immediately obvious that our data has been imported in a wrong way. Sometimes you don't see immediately that the default options didn't work, because you see a data file that looks correct, but in fact still deviates from the underlying raw data. And we give a look at an example and what can be done about it in the third example that's going to be taken up shortly, and what to do about it.